Hi, friends. My name's Host Eric. Do you remember me? I'm not sure if you remember me or not. Um, I think I met you originally at Judy's party. Remember, I'm the contractor who lost his license when he built somebody an igloo that fell down. Remember? Remember how that played? So, I'm what you might call end of the daying. Yes, that's right, I'm end of the daying. What does that mean? Well, it's been a pretty good day. Not exactly a great day. Did I have to use my AK is, of course, the general question that follows shortly thereafter. Well, no, I didn't. I was able to leave it at home. And I didn't have to use my Balishnikov either. But that notwithstanding, today's subject and topic is, are your thoughts being sandwiched? What do I mean by this? Well, we all understand that there's a thing called an afterthought, right? And a thing called the forethought, man. So what does that mean for the thought? It means it's constantly getting sandwiched. It's constantly being the meat in a bread and thought sandwich. Now, I'm not convinced the bread has asked the thoughts, hey, are you comfortable with this role always being the middle part? I feel like the thoughts may be being used by the bread in this instance. And, their self-preservation instincts are not what you would call the best, I guess. How do I get to see there? There, I get to see a little bit of me right there. Isn't that nice? There, I can see myself. Okay. Whew. You know why I don't actually like watching it on this thing is because there's a lag. I prefer to watch it in the OBS, but then that shows up on the screen. Am I conflating comfort with function? I don't know. What are you talking about? Listen, all I know is Nikola Hristov. Very simple truth. If you aren't comfortable, you really aren't functional. Not as functional as you could be. So what I'm going to recommend for you right now, I want you to rest on the couch. I want you to get yourself a pint of ice cream from the freezer. I want you to sit right down there, put on your favorite woman show, be it Menstruation Talk or Uteral Expose, a Symposium, these various shows that women enjoy a lot. Sit down, settle into one of those and say, I am going to have some me time. I've spent a long time living up to the high standards of the Hristov family. And I don't think anybody could say I've not done my work there. But today is not a Hristov day. Today's a Nikola day. What do you think, Nikola? Have you really taken time for yourself recently? Maybe a bubble bath. Maybe a tear-jerking movie. Maybe scissoring with the girlfriends. Whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable, safe, and relaxed. Because tonight, here on Talking with Fam People, we are going to prioritize those emotions in everybody. Oliver, I'm going to need your guidance here. You let me know anytime your comfort level moves from 5. Now, unlike a lot of scales, comfort, it's not a 10, it's not the most comfortable. Well, it's not the most comfortable, 0 is not the most. 5 is right in the middle. It's very comfortable. So if your comfort level, like your pH balance, starts becoming either excessively acidic or basic, then I will prescribe some Secret for you. Now, Secret, sure, it may be made for a woman, but it's strong enough for a man. So that's why I decided to give it out as door prizes this year. It's unisex. Made for a woman, strong enough for a man. Do you think men need stronger deodorant than women? Is that really true? I'm not sure that's true. I remain unconvinced of the truth of that. Oh, I see what the problem is here. I'm going to put it on this, yeah. And then we're going to, we're going to put it on this now. I like it. Hello, and welcome to my live stream. It's known as the ultimate, most extreme opportunity for pleasant conversation that you'll incur since your Christmas vacation. Welcome to Talking with Famous People. I'm singing you this song. I made it so that you could hear the tune, and so I hope you'll sing along. Hi, how you doing? The thing is, if you feel like you got some industrial style work to do right now, it's probably a good song for it, like move this box, put it over there. Get the other box, put it over there. Get another 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 box, put it over there. Oh no, there's no more spots over there. I'm going to instead put it over there. See, that's the kind of thing you could do if you were at work. Really supercharge your working environment. What I'm doing right now, I'm supercharging my work environment. Don't worry, just supercharging my work environment, boosting up the energy levels, making sure all the auras are red. Red's the best color for an aura. If the color's not red, then you're dead. All dead people have colored auras that are other than red. For example, my grandma. She's long since dead. And the color of her aura is not red. Also, her chakras are hardly decayed because after all, she's rotting in her grave. All the dead people in the world lose all their psychic powers. All the dead people in the world forget forever to shower. All the dead people in the world get dirt upon their skin until their skin melts away into some other dirt again. If you want to avoid this fate, it's very simple what you do, mate. You've got to stay alive until you find a cure for death. Erev equals Mao Zedong confirmed. I'm not Mao Zedong. I'm not Mao Zedong. I'll tell you the differences between me and Mao Zedong right now. So look, Mao Zedong was a leader. I guess you could say I'm a leader too, if you wanted to be a speeder on the highway of the truth. But regardless, let's leave it there. And Mao Zedong, he led his people to a communist revolution. And so I'd say instead of me and two, I'd say why maybe you. I don't know, but I don't like the communist ways of doing things. I don't know, but I don't like the communist kinds of proving things. I don't know, but I don't like authoritarianism all around, and I promote the free expression of me telling them to fuck themselves to the ground. If you're not red, you're dead. If you are dead, then you are not red. That makes it biconditional. Both directions. Biconditional. Both directions. Why conditions are so bad? I don't know. Mao Zedong put us in a hole. Mao Zedong made us all be farmers. Mao Zedong took away our charmers. Mao Zedong said, stop having kids. You peasants, don't you know that if you do not stop having kids, there'll be too many people here. That's the story of China's history. So, life can be a challenge. Life can be a bitch. Life can leave you sitting in an empty ditch. Yet life can also charm you and bring you lots of cheese. Life can lift you up when you fall into your knees. So don't despair. Don't abide that wish cannot be stood. Instead, retreat, or stand so proud that you know what you've done. And when you're through, a rock that juts from ground into the sky will catch you in a moment's notice and stick inside your eye. And then and only then, my friend, will you come then to see that everything you knew before was simply made of pee. I think it's a little impromptu bit of poetry wisdom for you right there. I've been looking into the ISFPs. Do you believe Cloud is one? I know Octavia Silva and Sheila are sure the type, but they are female. Cloud is not. Cloud's not an ISFP. Cloud's an ESFP. The textbook thing about ESFPs that makes them different than ISFPs, one of the things that makes them different, but is that ISFPs don't reject the idea of meanings. In fact, they're looking for the singular best meaning, and they take that task fairly seriously. But that doesn't mean it's easy for them to find it. But it's definitely a different frame of reference than an ESFP who actively rejects the idea of meanings being purposeful for things other than FI and FE and SE. Sheila is an ISFJ, yeah, that's true. Sheila's one of the very few people that I've typed that has persisted in her misconceptions of herself after the typing. It can be difficult to type SI DOMs in general because of their experiential frame. So, because they believe they know, they're knowers, first of all, and that the best way to know anything is to reference your own experience, they'll check my conclusions to see if their own experience matches up. But the thing they're checking against is the same thing that misled them in the first place, namely a bunch of undifferentiated kinds of questions, some of which are values, some of which are meow, some of which are meow, that lead to these type descriptions that are born of genetically damaged typology mothers. Oh, itchy, 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 itch. Oh, that's itchy. If you like the itchy, then, you know, go ahead and do the scratchy. Do I also have a premiere scheduled for 12:53? Do I? It shouldn't be scheduled for then. It should be scheduled for tomorrow morning, I think. December 5th at 9:30 a.m. Yeah, that's for tomorrow morning. Um, Winston's mom. That's tomorrow morning. Well, you know what? My shower video is not doing too bad. It's got 10 likes. I was a little concerned that maybe I did a poor job of like making the beginning part interesting enough. It seemed when I started watching the video like I didn't know where I was going at first. And although by the end I think it seemed like I knew where I was going the whole time. So the problem is expecting people to be patient through a little bit of a beginning thing is a bad idea in general because people don't tend to be that patient, you know. I could have executed it a little better, I guess, would have helped. So, let's see. Let's see what we got going on here. I agree with Winston's mom. They are both sure of their type. And Sheila is a P, but Octavia Silva is a J. So Octavia Silva has a judging function first, FI. And she behaves like a judger, which is to say, she establishes benchmarks or milestones or criteria and makes decisions according to them. It shows a scheduled time change. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was always it. I mean, it probably just... I don't know. Unfortunately, I did something kind of dumb with that. I think it's a good idea to excerpt that debate and put it up there as its own video. But unfortunately, when I excerpted it, I did my habitual thing, which was I told the Windows Movie Maker to put it at maximal high def. Not thinking the fact this was a 2.5 hour long video, so it took forever to encode, and then it took forever to upload. Yeah, so Sheila and I still don't agree about her type. She thinks she's an ISFP. I believe her to be an ISFJ, and I think that the way in which she insists she's an ISFP is much more consistent with the way an ISFJ would insist that than an ISFP would insist that. I guess I must have accidentally put up a different time. I don't think I did, but right. So that's a good point, Ethan. With Sheila, she argued against my position by continually referencing examples from her own experience. And I kept telling her, okay, you're trying to establish contradictions with examples from the past. That's very SITEI, you know, it's like what Ethan says. So, but you know, people want various things when they talk to me. Whatever they're talking to me about. Whether it's like cognitive functions or something else. Generally speaking, people are would ideally be more clear about what they want from the conversation. So a lot of people aren't necessarily haven't come to terms with what they want actually. Like, they might tell themselves, well, I want the truth, I want the right answer, but really, if the truth is meow meow, they don't want it. They want a different truth. They would like to select the truth of their that they prefer over the other truths that they prefer less, if possible. So my point about that is when that happens, then it's just, you got to understand that it takes people a while to know what they want and have clarity about what something means and what its possible kind of manifestations are and stuff, and that's perfectly fine. I'm feeling a little bit of heartburn. I don't like heartburn. It means I've drinking too much coffee. I've drinking. She was the reason I asked if you think that ISFPs huff off in a puff, because she did this here. She was a bit insulted no one would accept her preference type in MBTI, and she studied hard. So when Octavia Silva and Cloud huffed off, I asked if they do this, then Cloud said he is not SFP and goes on. Well, Cloud huffs off and comes back left and right. So he will literally say, okay, well, bye, I've gotten all I can get from this. This is the last time you guys see me here. And he'll literally be back 10 minutes later. I don't doubt that Octavia Silva will stay away for quite some time. Because she feels she needs to take what she believes to be either a principled stand or a self-protection stand. Either of which I totally respect. I think she's wrong about her conclusions there on either metric, but that's not my decision about that. That's her decision. So I suspect that she at some point will return to the question and conclude that, in fact, my response to her was right. I made a video for her in response to her email. It was a private video I sent to her, but I kind of wish I could just publish that video because it really explains all my arguments about this matter. But, people like to have private conversations, so whatever. When I first heard I was probably an ISFJ, I did the same thing, checked against my own experience, and decided it was probably right. I then thought I might be an ISFJ. I thought I might be an ISFJ before then, but I also thought ISFP. So, okay, you came in with the right frame of reference, which was you thought it might be this, it might be that. You prepared for certain answers. When Sheila came in, I think, I'm not sure why she wanted to be an ISFP so badly. I got the sense that she identified with certain type descriptions of ISFP, but it's as though she didn't get the fact that if you want to be that type description, or if you think that type description better fits you, then you can say, okay, well, there are elements of that type description that are wrong that actually describe ISFJ. That's a much more likely correct statement to make than because you like those type descriptions more, you're probably an ISFP. The thing is, in no uncertain terms, was she any polar? And if she is an ISFP, then she would invalidate the polar test all by herself. But I mean, there was nothing else about her that suggested uh, ISFP, suggested ISFP either. Well, I mean, so when Dave Superpowers types somebody as an ISFP, I think to myself, well, how does Dave Superpowers know that instead of being an ISFP, that maybe Sheila is an ISFJ subtype that looks exactly like an ISFP? After all, with 512 subtypes, you should be able to find one where you can say, for anything, where you can say, well, you're an ENTJ. And the person says, well, I mean, I don't seem to have TE, I don't seem to have NI, I don't seem to have I don't seem to have yeah. I seem much more like an ISFP than an ENTJ. And I say, oh, well, that's because you are an FI subtype of an ENTJ, who is basically an ENTJ who looks just like an ISFP. And of course, then there's also a ISFP subtype that looks just like an ENTJ. So I might say, well, how can you tell apart the ISFJ subtype that looks, or the ISFP subtype that looks just like the ENTJ, and the ENTJ subtype that looks just like the ISFP? Is it? I mean, aren't they both going to defy your typing of them one way or the other? Is it? It's, if you got 500 plus subtypes, then you can tell anybody that they're anything. And if they say, well, I don't feel like that type, I don't seem like that type, or this data doesn't uphold that type, then they just say, well, that's because you're the subtype of that type that isn't anything like that type. Oh, boy, somebody's doing some thinking around here. You decide by sitting in a room by yourself and flipping 9 coins. Why do you need 9? I want to know why you need 9 coins now. There's some sort of secret math you're doing that you're excluding me from, Oliver. You know how badly I hate being excluded from math problems. Seamus the drunk, the 6 or 7 closest people to me in my real life are censors, who were continually shutting me down in conversations and really not understanding me. I'm just glad for answers. ISFJs with 4 on the tri-type tend to give me an impression of ISFP at first before I look at their functions. That's certainly, it would make them more ISFP-like than, I guess, if they were, say, a 2. Part of wandering YouTube is finding where you want to spend your precious. Sheila W. is comfy over with Joyce Mang, and they have more censors over there. Sheila's artistic and stylish and nice. Yeah, I have nothing up against Sheila at all. I was surprised at how committed she was to her narrative, actually, but I shouldn't have been, because that's SI dumps for you. Hey, Seamus the drunk. Censors don't suck. Censors are just different. Okay? Difference not bad. Sometimes difference good. If you've been eating nothing but cyanide for weeks, you're probably ready for a change. You've also got a remarkable resistance to cyanide. Oh, I see. Okay, I got you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 9 coin flips gets you to 512. I got you. So, You are a great man, but limited by your own constraints, self-inflicted. Okay, so limited how? Limited in my capacity to do as I please, or limited in my capacity to attain the heights you think I ought to, or what? Do you find SI auxiliary users to be as stubborn about their types? No. Not as stubborn. But SI auxiliary types are likely to dismiss the NI thing entirely. So it's not really they're being stubborn about their type. They're going to not put much weight into typology, really. Like ESFJ might accept, like, I'm an ESFJ, and learn a few things about what that means, and think, okay, well, this is a cool FE tool I can bust out occasionally, talk about this thing that some people like to be into. But they're never really going to understand it. Just like Kimberly never really understood it. I actually think intuition is overrated if it isn't allowed to be expressed in a healthy or productive way. It's worse than that even. It's not just that it's overrated, but it's overrated and undervalued. So it's like the hype says, oh, intuition is really important and intelligence is really important. But the reality is people don't treat it like that. People don't treat me like intuition is very important. They treat me like intuition is the thing I'm using to bother them. And probably most intuitives have that same kind of experience. The words we tell our children about what virtues they have to uphold and the virtues that we actually then uphold are totally different things. Thanks, hypocritical people, for your lying about everything, you educators and schmaggities. I ignore it. I ignore what? I mean, Jeff, I said, okay, so how am I limited? Like, are you saying that I'm not able to do what I want, or that I attain a less meaningful outcome than you think I should, or that you think I attain a less meaningful outcome than I think I should, or what do you mean? Truth? So you're saying I'm inadequately upholding the truth because of these limitations? Okay, so then by what mechanism does that limitation express? If in fact truth suffers because I've failed to address some shortcoming in myself, then there should be a clearly articulable mechanics, such as, well, you keep clinging to your frame regardless of how much the case level gets beat up or something. Or I don't know, whatever you got in mind. I don't know what you have in mind as to the mechanism, which is why I'm asking you. No, they do not. Swift Eagle, and it has been interesting observing how conservative my sensors have become as they age. I've known most of them for over 40 years, and they get older and fuddy-duddier. It's interesting, my dad hasn't gotten very fuddy-duddy at all. He's a little bit more, a little less fluid in his engagement with reality. Like, it takes more of his attention to do something than it used to, I guess you could say. So a little bit frustrating because I was hoping to get an answer to my question. So Jeff Shaw, I like the fact you asked such a good question and bring up a good thing, but it's frustrating when I ask you to explain what you mean, and you don't. You know this and are above it. I know what. You still haven't answered my question, so I don't even know what you mean yet. I'd love to engage with you meaningfully. You ask some interesting questions. You bring up some interesting stuff, but you have to actually mean things, or else you're just doing meaning theater. I think we should apply the Big Five attitudes, behavioral styles to people as they age. I don't find their personality types changed, even if they've evolved. Right, I've certainly evolved, and certainly my personality type hasn't changed. Yeah, I asked you what they were, though, Jeff. I said I wanted you to explain what the mechanism of limitation was. So if you can't do that, then at least explain the impacts of the limitation so that we can maybe reverse engineer it. If you're trying to convey something that you actually do know, then I can understand that can be challenging to get a holistic idea out, broken down for me. But if you really are trying to communicate with me something you know, then you'll have to try harder. But if you're just trying to do framing theater or something, then I guess you're doing fine. Okay. Etymology is underrated in normal society and overrated in academia. I mean, the origin of words? Okay. I wouldn't disagree with that. Fear of being wrong? Okay, so, of course, everybody gets scared of things, and fear is not in itself a limitation. It's the appropriate response to certain degrees of uncertainty in certain circumstances. I mean, I do have a vestigial fear of wrongness that is sort of an echo or a reflex, and it does negatively impact me. It's true, but I'm not really very convinced that I mean, if you think that's a significant factor in things or something, like if that's a limitation of mine, then you've misread it. I think it's fair to say that it's a habit I'm breaking, and sometimes habits take a little while to break, and that's okay. I think it's actually better to respond to a chat where the characters aren't limited to 200 per message, like on Twitch. Well, we can do this on, it's like, if you want a voice to chat, I can open up Discord and join the voice channel. There. And now we're streaming with gas. Okay, okay. If Eric finds a way to stream on both YouTube and Twitch concurrently with OBS, I would be happy. I would also think he would want more words to read. The problem the problem isn't that I can't do both in OBS. The actual problem is I'm finding that the Twitch studio app seems to conflict with the OBS one, or they won't. Another way to put it is they won't share the same camera. And I could plug in a second camera easily enough, but I'm out of USB slots. So I need to go get a USB splitter. And then that would allow me to stream them both. The problem is basically when one of them takes okay, so you're saying right now I'm spamming the audio space in Discord, is that what you're saying? I will put it on push to talk. Okay, there. Now it's on push to talk. So now you shouldn't be hearing me. You shouldn't be hearing me on Discord unless I push the button I pushed to talk. Well, thanks, Jeff Shaw. I agree that I'm not in a voice channel. Wait, so what? God damn this voice channel thing. I was in the voice text. I see. Now I'm in the voice channel. But I'm still on push to talk. So I'll put it off of push to talk to voice activity. There. Now now our worlds are complete at last. Skygear, does that complete you? Are you getting a little bit of a boner? MGTOW and modern feminism are both bullshit. It's different sides of the same coin. You know what's not bullshit? I'll tell you. I have to pee. I really do. I've had to pee for a while now. I'm not sure I can put it off any longer. So, even though it might not be exactly what you want from me right now, I'm going to have to get up and pee. And, you guys rap over this while I'm gone. Yeah, it's more than a little dig with Sanderson. It's rather repetitive because it's just the first 19 seconds of it looped. Because you see, David Sanderson, 19 seconds is all I loop. That's why it repeats itself. 19 seconds is all I loop. If you've got a very short loop, you're going to hear it very, very many times. If you've got a very long loop, you're going to hear it very, very, very few times. Why did I make you think that thing that I did that time? Why did you make her leave? Because you made Grass Eater a moderator. Yeah, I guess that's why she left, but I don't really know if she's left per se. The thing I tried to express to her was, okay, I get you feel kind of strongly about this, but I'm not going to have myself be moved by the ultimatums of someone else. I'm not going to let her disapproval make my decision when I know what removal would be. It's fine. Grass Eater is just fine. Perhaps a lot more people than Cheese needs to find out that he is just like you and me, a random dude who doesn't deserve this non-stop dismissal and hatred, especially when it's somewhat politicized. I think it's an interesting topic, though. I think it's an interesting topic because, of course, the challenge with moderators is there are two kinds of arguments against a given moderator decision. One is you made a bad decision because that person's going to be a bad moderator. The other one is you made an unfair decision because if you're going to make that guy a moderator, you should have made me a moderator. Do you know what I'm saying when I'm saying my words? Have you got any trouble up inside of your birds? No? You don't have any trouble with that at all?
Mm-mm.
Oh, good. It's a relief.
Shit, and I can listen in later. So there's this guy named Nautilus or something, and he like owns multiple servers, I believe, or at least he's like a shareholder of some sort.
Okay. And what?
I don't know. I'm trying to find these kinds of big people.
Cool.
In order to help leverage some popularity for the server.
I really enjoyed talking to Homie earlier, and I excerpted the conversation from the live stream and uploaded it as an uploaded video because I think it'll do well as a properly titled uploaded video simply because people are interested in that kind of debate.
Right. He actually got like kicked out of Nameless Debates at some point because people didn't like how he approached arguing.
I mean, I get not liking how someone approaches arguing or whatever, but he's not doing anything wrong I could see. I mean,
right.
he's taking an approach that the strongest basic default is skepticism, and that if you work the skepticism and hang hard enough, that you can usually dismantle stuff. But and that can be frustrating to people whose stuff is subject to being dismantled. But he probably means he was good at it. It probably means he popped a lot of bubbles, you know?
Yeah, could be. the main objection that they would use is that he, I guess in a sense, he would present like both sides of the argument, but he wouldn't present them like genuinely or something. Like he would make one side look weak and the other side look like stronger than it should look or something like that. I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, so it's just a variant in straw manning. Everybody does to some extent. I didn't find him to straw man me particularly. I thought he was able and willing to hear me, although sometimes I had to repeat the warrant a few times because he wanted to respond to something other than what I was saying. But he did respond to it if I returned to the thing,
Right. Well, when he dissembles, he engages in like a certain kind of dissembling that I guess isn't very well tolerated. It's more like an attempt at deconstruction. Sometimes he just pushes a little too far though and doesn't actually get very much ground.
I mean, the thing is, it makes sense as a strategy in general to take a deconstructionist default because it's just generally, as a broad rule of thumb, much easier to tear down inadequate structures than it is to build an adequate one. And since most structures are inadequate, most of the time negating's easier. But if you're in charge of your own AF, which you are, that's the advantage the AF has, is they're in charge of it. Unlike the neg, which has to respond to the AF. So, for people who do a really good job with their AF, that negationary default can backfire.
Right, I agree. So he has like this little document thing that he's come up with. It's like for bad arguments and how you should like. It's like a taxonomy or something like that, where he like goes down a list of different positions and then ranks them on like, I don't know if it's like strongest to weakest or like most extreme to least extreme or something, but he's like explaining what the pro side arguments are, the negative sides are, and like, I'm not really sure. It's kind of confusing.
I attempted to do something like that before myself, where I'd say, okay, let's look at the gun issue. Here are the arguments made by both sides, and who has the stronger arguments ultimately, and why, and under which frame. And so I get the concept, but the kind of thing he's trying to do there is something that takes a certain amount of expertise, probably.
Maybe. I can see that.
I recorded myself coaching a little bit tonight, which is basically about debater.
No, I mainly use that analogy to
talk to
explain
me.
to you.
And
I mean, it depends how.
Can you stream it?
I'm trying.
I mean, I like analogies too, and I think it depends on the judge, But in general, analogies I shouldn't discourage you from using them at all because they're the way that you successfully do sum things up. So okay, just go ahead and try it.
So for a little bit of context here real quick, he started the La Costa Canyon tournament today. And the La Costa Canyon tournament is a 3-day tournament. He'll be competing there today. He competed tomorrow. I'm judging tomorrow on Sunday. But the thing is, this tournament uses CHASA rules. Now, CHASA rules, it turns out, explicitly preclude plans and counterplans in Lincoln-Douglas debate. Now, I agree with CHASA that the plans and counterplans shouldn't be in Lincoln-Douglas debate, but I don't think it should be a rule. I think that the debater should have to win those arguments in the round. because there's reasons why, you know, it's not the appropriate approach to a whole resolution, kind of resolution that requires a truth testing paradigm, and it doesn't. You can't actually affirm it with a plan, but it shouldn't be a rule. If that is the case, what I'm saying, then it should be won in the round on the arguments, and it should be easy enough to win on the round of the arguments. But anyway, so what's happened here is we have a counter plan in our case. I didn't know they were running Shasta rules. I don't know Shasta rules very well anyway. We almost always do NSDA tournaments. But this one's a California tournament, so it uses Shasta rules. And so I had to tell them, we have a counter plan, but don't run it as a counter plan, run it as a preferable alt. And then we're talking in this video about how to strategically manage the argumentation. I think it's revelatory about how to, like arguments thought about from a competitive standpoint only, or not a competitive standpoint only, but from a sports perspective,
No, I mainly use that analogy to explain it to you. I mean, it depends how. I mean, I like analogies too, and I think it depends on the judge, But in general, analogies I shouldn't discourage you from using them at all, because they're the way that you successfully do sum things up. So okay, just go ahead and try it.
So today we have two options. We have the option to rush and do something which gives us a tiny bit of a benefit, which is to rush the federal job guarantee. But that will be because the order completely eliminates the possibility that any time in the future we'll have the option to use a labor standard, which is much preferable on the high school circuit. So we have two options here. We can either completely destroy that option.
So you're not going to be able to hear him very well on this, and that's fine, because basically what he's doing is failing to be concise enough throughout the whole thing, saying sort of what I'm saying, but not concise enough and not exactly as I want it. So I'll play a little bit more of this because I think it's interesting.
Wait, well, what you could do is I think you can just screen it on Discord, or
it's streaming right now on YouTube. It can be watched currently on YouTube. But if you want me to stream,
you can link it in the text.
It's not online. I'm playing it from my local hard drive.
Oh, okay.
Or we can wait and not rush and have access, and by doing that, we keep the door open to use this great possibility, this great alternative, which is superior in every way to the federal job guarantee. We keep the door open to do this in the near future.
Okay, that's pretty good. So let's say I say in response to this argument from the other side, I go, this is a counter plan. He can't run a counter plan in Lincoln Douglas and Shasta because it's saying we should implement this other thing instead of what I'm saying. Now let's pretend it's crossfire. I'm asking you, why isn't this a counter plan? Aren't you saying here's a better thing we should do instead?
No, because I'm not doing a counter plan. I'm saying that there is a lot of better options because already people have already working on trying to implement this in the government. Yet you only have this tiny amount, this tiny portion of what we could get using these terms long term.
Alright, that's too complicated of an answer.
Alright.
So your answer should just be something like, it's not a counter plan because I'm not claiming impacts. Right? I'm not claiming impacts from the preferable alternative. Right? And then, so let's walk through this argument chain in Q&A. So I ask you, you're saying we should do this other thing instead of what I suggest. Isn't that a counter plan definitionally? Okay, good. Sorry, my bad. You should include that from the preferable alternative part. You're right. Okay, so okay, you're not claiming any preferable alternative, so then this argument doesn't matter at all. Okay, alright, but so with that question, so you asked me the question. Basically, the question is, well, if it's not a counter plan, it has no impacts. Why does it matter at all? Right? Ask me the question.
If it's not a county plan and you're not making impact, why does that?
Oh no, I'm pointing out that one of the harms of your advocacy is that exists in the status is something that exists in the status quo that gets destroyed, and that since this isn't like going out to dinner, we need to choose something. I'm hungry. Rather, it's more like buying a house, that we should make sure we get the right house, and the preferable alternatives are extremely relevant in this situation because you're talking about a massive government program that's a once-in-a-generation thing.
We're going to fast forward through this for quite a bit and then go towards the end here.
Definitely not a counter plan. But if you do measure impact,
Can I make impact or what?
well, see, now I'd be a little sketchy on it because it might depend on the judge's knowledge and or attachment to the CHASA frame of reference. The funny thing is, basically, I agree with CHASA that LD ought not have plans and counter plans, but I don't agree that that ought to be attained by a rule. I believe that if it ought not have plans and counter plans, then those arguments ought to win in the round. You know?
Okay, so in other words, I'm using the trying to make impact go animal because there's a possibility they'll come up with land and call it land.
Right. If you claim the impacts and they're good and smart, if they have another speech, they will turn it and they'll say the defining quality of whether something qualifies as a plan or a counter plan, specifically a counter plan, okay? Because this doesn't work for plans, but it does for counter plans. The defining quality of a counter plan is that we measure its impacts against the plan. And since we're not measuring any impacts of labor standard here, it's definitely not a counter plan. But if you do measure impacts, then it's too risky, I would say. But it kind of depends on your opponent. You can probably measure your opponent as well. How knowledgeable are they? And if you want to continue calling it a preferable alt, but try to impact it anyway, and your opponent concedes those impacts, then there's not really any way at that point they can call you out on being a counter plan because they've already conceded implicitly that running a preferable alt with impacts is not necessarily the same thing as a counter plan. So, in fact, I'm not sure what the exact clear definition of a counter plan is, but I would say that a good bright line operationalized definition is anything that you can impact as an exclusive set of impacts to weigh against the AFA impacts.
Got it. So if I'm going to if my opponent doesn't call it rule violation, I still shouldn't make him that.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I just said, you're gonna have to make a tactical or strategic decision based on the circumstances. I would say it's probably not worth it because it's probably a stronger argument to get out ahead of it and say, now, no, Judge, this preferable alternative, because it's a preferable alternative and not a counter plan, it doesn't have any impacts. That is to say, the impact is we retain status quo. So why did I run it then? Well, because it's a voter. It shows something that will be destroyed and cannot be recovered, and it's very precious if we do the act. He didn't even know it existed, but he planned to destroy it anyway.
Got it. Because okay, so there's no impact, but that means it's a voter. Because that's inexcusable. By affirming the resolution, you destroyed it. Precious opportunity to have to use the neighbor's gender. Yet, you can't avoid them because it's not a compliment. It's incredible alternative and it's exclusive to your plan or the resolution. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you And those are totally legitimate impacts, because what you're saying is that that squandering this opportunity is a harm that's expressed in terms of opportunity cost. But maybe it's too distinct. Maybe it's too fine a parsing distinction to make. I would just say, like, that no judge is a preferable alternative. So, what I've established here is a harm, and that he's destroying the preferable alternative. But the preferable alternative has no impact. So, how can we measure the harm? Well, there's only one way. You measure it as a voter. We recognize the fact that if I can show that this is a mediocre house, that we'd be better off not buying a house at all today, waiting until tomorrow, where it's true we're not guaranteed to get a better house, but where we are guaranteed to have used our discretion wisely and not jumping the gun on such an important matter.
Got it.
Okay, so yeah, you use the house buying analogy.
I always claim that this preferable alternative doesn't get me any impact. It has no way to balance, and there's no way to measure it. However, that means that there's only one way to measure it. We have to measure this as a voter, because we are squandering an opportunity to make a great choice, to make an okay choice, when we have the opportunity to make a great choice. I'm not saying that we're voting to make this great choice, but I'm saying that we shouldn't act in a way that is unable to make this great choice. So we can always do the federal job guarantee or whatever, but we won't.
Let's keep that instead of wasting it. This topic.
To use the better option in the future, basically.
I mean, to be honest, it's still not quite right. It's like, you need to stress the opportunity cost part. That you need to stress that his logic's wrong. That my opponent's saying, hey, we either get these good outcomes I establish, or we get the status quo. But he's like a school principal, throwing a homecoming party and spending the entire school's entire year's budget on this party. Now, if that principal were arguing in this round, he'd say, hey, you get the benefits of the party if we do my half, and you get nothing. Just status quo if we do the neg.
I see.
But there's a problem there, isn't there?
Uh-huh.
You retain $10 million of budget money to educate the children with. Now, you can't claim that as an impact of the neg, the education, because you don't know what we're going to spend it on yet. In fact, just because we don't spend it on this stupid idea doesn't mean we'll successfully defend against the principal's next stupid idea. So, that's true. Negating this doesn't guarantee the money will be spent well or better. However, if we affirm this, we guarantee it will be spent badly.
Alright, so by negating, we don't lose more gain at stake. However, by affirming, we lose the possibility to do this right.
Correct. That's pretty clean. That's pretty NI.
Okay, I think that's good.
Okay. Anything else? So the thing is, here, let me say something. I get that that's boring for people, but at the same time, it's very meaningful for me to be able to play a little bit of that. Because I get the sense that people don't really know what debate coaching is.
Right.
And
I'm still quite not sure what it is, but I get a better idea through that video.
Yeah, through things like that. So the thing is, he's calling me after the second round in the tournament. And he's saying, Coach, I've got a problem. I have a counter plan in my neg, and it turns out there were any chassa rules and counter plans aren't allowed. So I have to explain to him, well, you still run it. You just treat it as a preferable alt. You call it a preferable alt. And
then I'd explain, well, what's the difference, basically? And the difference is, a counterplan says, if we don't do your AF, we're going to do my neg. A preferable alt says, if we don't do your AF, we'll still be able to potentially do this other good thing. So it's harder to impact, obviously. You've got to impact it in terms of opportunity cost. And he was having trouble with that concept. So that's what a debate coach does, is they troubleshoot shit. I've gotten several calls from today. My opponent said, meow. How did I stop that from happening? What she specifically said was, or what Jeffrey told me was that he had run his shit, and then she had not addressed his counterplan, which he still had because he didn't know this rule yet. And then she said she had addressed it in a later speech, even though she hadn't. And she said, well, how do you stop people from doing that? I said, you can't. You can't prevent that from happening. But you can play a little bit of prevent defense in the sense of, in the last neg speech, because AF gets the last word, say to the judge, no, Judge, I won't have an opportunity to come up here again and correct the things that my opponent says that might be wrong in this upcoming speech. But I'm anticipating they might go here, here, and here. And I want you to remember, they did not respond to man. They did not respond to man. They did not respond to man, no matter what they say in this upcoming speech. So, you could do that too. Is it necessary or is it wise to do that? If you do it right and in the right circumstances, probably, yeah, it is. I tend to think that some strong arguments are one of the strongest ways to impact something anyway, is to go, he could have said this, but he didn't. That would have been a response. Instead, he gave no response. He can't claim my response now, so he should be dropped in the round because he had plenty of opportunities to make legitimate arguments that I'm demonstrating right here, and he didn't do that. Have I done that successfully myself? Yeah, of course. I've debated lots and lots of rounds, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, but I've scrimmaged against kids, I've debated other coaches, I've debated in high school. Sometimes you pull off the shit and sometimes you don't. It depends on, sometimes it's like any other sport, Karma's Pimp. Sometimes you're feeling it, you're in the flow, and you're just killing it, and everything, all your 3-pointers are falling. And sometimes you kind of got 2 left feet, or something's off, and you just, whoa. One of the teams, of all the squads I've ever taken to nationals, one of them stands out as the team that, if I had to bet on a team to win the whole thing ahead of time, I would have said they were the best bet among my options. Like, okay, if I had to bet on one of my entries to be the most likely to win the whole thing, I would have bet on Alex and Jax. But in quarterfinals, quarterfinals, maybe octafinals even, it was the end of a long day, and they hadn't eaten, and I was watching the round, and I had watched them just shred through opponents in scrimmages and also in rounds. They were the most prepped public forum team I ever had. They had Alex was what type was Alex? I don't know. Maybe even an ISTJ, maybe an ESTJ, or maybe an NTJ. I'm not sure but regardless, his shit was so organized. He had a card response for everything I could possibly conceive of that might ever be used as an argument for everything. And he had it all super organized. But at the end of this day, they were tired, and they lost. Like, they had the worst round I'd seen them have since they had been like 6th graders or something. I had never seen them just bumble through something so catastrophically bad. They were the top seed. They were up against like the 16 seed or something, right? And they lost the round. And I still to this day, I always say to my debaters for their out rounds, you have to eat some food. When's the last time you ate food? Better just eat some more. I just ate 5 minutes. You better eat more anyway. Because that can be the difference between a national championship and getting upset in the octafinals. You know? They lost that round fair and square. I couldn't even tell them they got robbed or anything. I'm just like, yeah, you guys, it could go either way. I mean, because it wasn't like they got blown out, but it was a fair decision. It may have been even a split decision, but I wasn't shocked by it, you know. I didn't feel we had been treated unjustly. So that just happens sometimes. Sometimes you just go out there and you got nothing. Probably it has to do with SI, if you're me anyway, but I don't know about other people. You could also have to do with FI if you got something sad going on in your life or something. That could really be a big drag on how you say effectiveness. I would be effective, but I'm too sad.
Right.
Right.
I see that.
IDK, I think it's way more interesting than that he realizes he was bad guy, that he basically kidnapped somebody's wife, instead of it being another generic zombie movie where he just blows himself up. What movie are you talking about? Karma's Pimp? So we cool. Mortgage? But maybe it's because I read the book first, which is more like the alternate ending. I just sort of prefer that. Generic. And yes, maybe you had a book bias. Makes sense. Thematically speaking, a strong, impactful climax is good. Like the drop in a song. Original ending is superb. Dropping a song is funny you mention that because we were listening to Rachel's Spotify list today. Spotify automatically makes for you, I guess, a list of your top 100 songs in the last year. So it like keeps track of how many times you've listened to songs, various songs, and then it puts them in a list 1 to 100. Anyway, there's this band might be called Arctic Monkeys, but no, or Animal Connection or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's like she had 2 songs that made that. She said they were like airplane songs. I think she listened to it on the airplane or whatever. But the thing I said about that band is it's like all build, no drop. It was strange. It was like I kept expecting it to drop at some point, and it just kept. Animal Collective. There you go, Freddie Forgiato. Freddie Forgiato, you deduced the thing that I was talking about with just a few clues. You'd be good on Name That Tune, the tuneless version. So, David Sanderson, how do you think you do on Name That Tune? Do you want to play a little Name That Tune with me right now? I'll be the game show host. You be the contestant.
Mm. Yeah,
I think I'll pass.
Alright, I'm going to play Name That Tune with the chatters then. I'm going to sing a few notes. And I'll tell you what. I'm going to start. Oh. You want a story of me using it. I don't really have one that sticks out. It's like it's fairly common for me to demo it. So I don't. It's hard for me to remember using it distinctly as being a distinct thing from demoing it. I demo it to classes all the time. So anyway,
Yeah, Animal Collective was the one. Would you agree with my assessment, Freddie Forgiato, that they are all build, no drop? But thank you for clarifying that, Commerce Pimp, because I did interpret what you were saying as doubting the veracity of my claim. Or doubting whether I really tested that out or not. Or I guess I was thinking, this Commerce Pimp thing, I just came up with that shit right there on the fly and presenting it as some debate rule, but really I'm just pulling it out of my ass right now. No. I've said that to many classes, and regardless, you didn't mean that. Now I understand, and I misinterpreted it. So now let's play Name That Tune.
What type of person would be able to come up with rules, like just on the spot, and those rules actually work?
I mean, my type, but we're not able to do it as well as actually doing it right. You know, yes, we're good at faking shit. And the problem that, you know, I think EPs in general are going to avoid debating me, even though they are not avoidant of that stuff, because it makes a big difference if you're trying to wing it or if you're not. You know, the thing is, the nice thing for me is people are always better at not winging it ultimately, but I don't have to prep anything specific because I'm so familiar with all the various blocks of various things. I always feel like prepared to walk into anything and argue it right away, as long as it's within the broad range of stuff that gets argued. Okay, name that tune. Here we go. I'm going to start with, let's see, we'll start with 7 notes, and that's so easy, and we'll go down to 6, 5, 4, and we'll see, okay? 7 notes. Let me think of a song to do, and we'll do 7 notes. Ba, 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 ba. Wait, I think I got that wrong. Let me try again. That's first 7 notes. Boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. I got it wrong. Maybe I should pick a different song. Let me pick a different song. I'm sorry about that. That's a false start, okay? Every track meet has a false start. This track meet's false start. So just everyone just shake it off, go back to starters blocks, get ready to hear the gun again. New song, 7 notes. Okay. Let's see. Ba 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 ba. Those are the 7 notes. Name that tune. Ba 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 ba. No songs I made. No songs I made. These are famous songs. Everyone should know this song. Ba 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 ba. Nobody? Nobody? Anybody? Anybody? Luber? Luber? Alright, I'll give you some more notes. Ba 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 ba.
Yeah, a famous song. The famousest songs of all the famous songs. I can give you more notes if need be. Nobody has the answer to this one yet, huh? Alright, more notes it is. Nobody? Someone to watch over me. Someone to watch over me. It's, I think, a Disney song, maybe? Alright, let's try again. That was a bad one. Let me try again. Let me see if I can do a better job, okay? How about this? We'll try seven. Start with 7 notes again. Bow. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. That's the first 6 notes. Nobody knows. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Come on, you guys. Come on. I wish you could sing me some notes and see if I could get it. Anybody? Anybody? We'll give you a couple more notes. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. Anybody? Come on. This one's easy squeezy. Like a sleazy beezy, please. Jesus' skeezy wheezes. Okay, I'll sing it for you. There you go. Thank you, Freddie Forgiato. Thank you. Freddie Forgiato got it. You've got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. You've got to know when to walk away, and know as well when to run. Okay, let's try another famous song that you're sure to know, and I will sing it for you in a second here, and we'll start with a few notes. We'll see how we go. How about this one here? Ba 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 ba. Easy one. 5 notes. Ba 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 ba. Anybody? Anybody? Anybody name that tune? Tune? Anybody name that tune? Tune? Anybody? 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 Anybody name that tune? Tune? Alright, I'll think, give it a couple more notes. Ba 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 ba. Come on, you gotta know by this point. That song, you sucked that song out of your mother's teat. That's how familiar you are with this song. It's not the national anthem. It is an American song, but it's not the national anthem. Yes, there you go, Winston's mom. You correctly identify the song as It's a Grand Old Flag. And boy, isn't that the truth. The grandest of them all. Not the oldest, though. No, it's not the oldest flag, but it is the grandest. As long as we can arbitrarily define grand. Alright, how about this next one? This will be a fun one. I think you're going to like it. Bow, 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 bow. I'm just going to give you 4 notes first. Somebody might get it from that. Bo, 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 bo. If you can't get the 4 notes, we'll go to 5. Anybody? Bo, 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 bo. No. Okay, I'll give you more notes. I'll give you 5 notes. Boom, 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 boom. Anybody? Come on, you know it. Alright, 7 notes. Boom, 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 boom. Nobody? Alright, well, I'll give you 10 notes. Sure, fine. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. Now you know it. Now you've got to know it. Go ahead and tell me what that song is. Tell me what that song is. Tell me what that song was. I did sing right there, don't you know? Alright, I'll sing the whole thing for you. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Bum 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 bum. The Muppet Show song. It's the Muppet Show song. Everybody knows the Muppet Show song. Gosh. All right, and maybe that's not that common. How about this one? Meow 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 meow. What's that song? You know that one, right? Meow 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 meow. What song is that? You have to know that song. Oh, the old European excuse, huh? Likely story, Tiny Man 66. Likely story. No, not Final Countdown. Yes, thank you, Winston's mom. I mean, come on, Stairway to Heaven. Everybody's got to get Stairway to Heaven. Alright, here's a really easy one.
I'm getting ready.
Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. Anybody know what that is? Just like 5 notes? I can name that song in 3 notes, Bert. I'll give you a few more notes. Boom, 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 boom. Something like that. I got a little wrong at the end. You know what song is? Santa Baby. Santa Baby, come back to send me to me. Auntie. You know that song? It was sung in varying degrees of sultriness by assorted lady singers. Most BDE of the sultries, I would say, belongs to Eartha Kitt. Oh, Uncultured Swine. Grass Eater, I am glad that we get some uncultured swine in here to mix with the cultured swine. I appreciate the diversity. Alright, let me see if I can go more contemporary songs. Everybody's going to know right now, today, forever. Okay, let me think. Contemporary songs that everybody knows and loves. Alright, how about this one? Ba, 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 ba. What song is that? Do you know Viva la Race de Nos Royce by Rameau? No. Ma, ba, 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 ba. What song is that? I can give you another note if you need it. Ba, 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 ba. Thank you, Karma's Pimp. Thank you. Freddie Forgiato was like, Mary had a motherfucking little lamb. God. Yes, you are correct. Mary did have a motherfucking little lamb. I mean, that little lamb fucked the shit out of Mary's mother. And Mary said, hey, you're just a little lamb. Where did all this sexual energy come from? And the lamb just said, bah. Okay, so, what are we talking about? What are we talking about around here? You guys are terrible Name That Tune players you are? Except for Freddie Forgiato? You guys are terrible Name That Tune players. I wonder if I'd be good at it. I wish other people would let me play these games sometimes. Do any of you know John Baptiste Lawley? Are you talking about Bappy? Yeah, he's on my college baseball team. He's slayed. He's a French exchange student. Play third base. You know, I said, French people can't play third base. And he's like, but we. And you know what he did? He played third base. He went out with Julie Swanson, the Julie D. Swanson, the one from the western side of campus. The French don't play baseball. You know what I think we should do? Let's all start a petition. I want to start a petition to change the name of the French horn to the America horn. Who's with me? Why do the French get credit for the French horn? Did they really make the French horn? Even if they did, does that make the horn French? I don't think so. Did the horn seem more American than French? Yeah. Have we ever asked the question of the French? Hey, by what right did you claim the name of this horn? Have we ever even heard what their justification is? Maybe if we just point it out, they'll go, oh, you got us, we're so embarrassed. We thought we could get away with it. We agree, it should be called the America horn. Could go like that, you don't know. We could toss in a few Sivu plays. You know, a little FE goes a long way. France music. Things I might not know about John Baptiste Lawley. Well, I mean, that guy did not oversell his title. I'm quite convinced these things I definitely do not know. French horn, French fries, French cuff, French bread, French kiss, French toast. Let's rename them all. I like that. I like that, Louis XVII. Let's rename them all. But let's only name the horn the America horn. Let's be fair and include other countries for the other things, okay? Let's make it the America horn. Let's just make it, let's see. What's another country that starts with F that's not France? Finland. Finland fries, okay? Make them Finland fries. We're going to have the America horn, the Finland fries. We'll give the cuff to, instead of a nation, we'll give it to a identity politics group. Call it the gay cuff. And instead of bread being French, we'll make it fresh baked. Okay? Instead of kisses being French, We'll limit those to Detroit. The Detroit Kiss. That's a fairly brazen place, Detroit. And as far as French toast goes, I guess the French could keep their toast, maybe. What else did we leave them? We leave them anything else? Did we take everything else away from them? I think I might have taken everything else. If I've taken everything else away, they can keep the toast. They can have one thing. One. And they're on probation with that one. The America horn will remain the America horn for the rest of time. Note, I don't want to call it an American horn. It's the America horn. French onion soup. Thank you, Louis XVII. We almost let one of these scoundrels escape us, didn't we? Okay, who deserves the onion soup? Guam. Guamian onion soup. So, Tiny Man 66 voices a uncommonly heard sentiment when she fiercely insists, "Fuck Finland." You know, normally people don't feel that much hostility towards Finland. I rarely hear people express how mad they are at Finland. Of course, I'm not Norwegian, so maybe they've got some sort of regional thing, like the Finns hate the Danes, who hate the Norwegians, who hate the Swedes, or something like that, you know. And everybody hates the Icelandic. Maybe it works like that. I don't know. Probably not. Probably in Scandinavia, they try not to have too much squabbling. You know, Switzerland, I know it's not in Scandinavia, but it's sort of the poster child for let's stay out of other squabbles, you know. I think that sentiment of squabble avoidance still permeates some in Scandinavia, although as young people get politicized, they tend to compel a little bit more action, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So, you know, it does seem like you've seen more activity in those areas in the Scandinavian countries of late. Live webcam, Santa Claus Village, Lapland live cam, Finland. Oh my gosh. Is that a real Santa Claus in that one? Do they have real reindeer? Because
Wow.
that'd be pretty exciting. Things aren't that exciting around here right now. I know that, you know, you could be a lot more excited than you currently are. You know, probably I need to do something to excite you more. Finns hate Swedes. Hi, Shad Betham. How you doing? I come to watch your coffee brewing. You have a feeling that Bernie Sanders' political career is over? I agree with you. Are you good or are you great? Or are you just saying that because it's appropriate to say? Any of those is fine.
Regardless of what you think of Bernie Sanders' positions, I mean, he's getting pretty old and, you know,
Yeah.
kind of going out of style a little bit. With the younger and stuff. They're like AOC, I think.
Who's like AOC?
Younger people.
Oh. I don't think they... I think all young people are prone to thinking and saying and feeling that that they're the bringers of a change of some sort. That their newness of their understanding is sufficient to provide them greater clarity over important matters than people who have more perspective but less newness in their perspective, I guess you could say. But hopefully they develop a more nuanced approach over time, and I think that people also need to be afforded a clear alternative to the non-nuanced and bad kinds of narrative approaches that they sometimes encounter in college or something. And it's not the opposite of it is the thing. It's the alternative that avoids the divisiveness and such. But what was I about to do? Something very, very important.
Probably should ask his client too. Yeah, how would you feel about like just uploading one of your interactions with Jeff on YouTube? I don't think it would be that much work. If you get his permission,
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like the thing that I streamed tonight, you can sort of hear him on the phone. It doesn't have his face in it. It's mostly
it's not really good audio quality. Though. You can't really hear his voice. It's all muffled and stuff. It's just coming out of your speakers into the microphone.
Right. No, I get that. I could ask him. I've thought about asking him. I occasionally will upload stuff with the purpose of having him look at it himself. Like I was thinking of recording that video there, that if you still wanted to talk more about this particular thing, at a certain point I was going to say, okay, look here, I've recorded this lecture, so lecture, quote unquote, or whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to upload it. I'll leave it unlisted and I'll send you a link to it. So it's like,
okay.
He's familiar with the process in some sense, but I've never asked him if I could publish before. Although, I mean, this has happened before. That I said, okay, well, I'll work with you, but I'm live streaming right now. If you really need to talk to me right now, then you're going to have to participate in the live stream. And he chose to do it. So, I mean, for whatever that means. But the debate thing is going to be much more of a challenge for me to ask him, because here's why. Whatever information we put out there publicly, he's going to feel might put him at a competitive disadvantage, because it'll give people a heads up on how we're arguing certain warrants, and especially because, like, the thing I put on the live stream tonight is pretty interesting. You can pretty well deduce what he's saying if you were to see it, and if you were to see the original thing here, then you'd be able to understand it, I think. I can share it. My Google Drive is fine. But it's a little tricky on the uploading thing for a couple of reasons. Besides that, too, it's like YouTube's iffy about minors. If you got to tell them if you got a kid in your video, and I mean, you don't have to tell them if you have a kid in your video. You have to tell them if the video is for kids, and it says the thing in the last page like, pay very close attention to whether or not you have kids in your videos, and if you've met the local laws regarding. I would leave it unmonetized, so I'd be able to I'd be able to avoid certain critiques, or most critiques probably, but it still seems a little. In other words, it requires a lot of thought. But it's not just an easy decision. What are they doing here? Oh, right, uploading that thing. What thing are you uploading? I'm uploading the thing that I'm talking about. What is the thing that you're talking about? It's the thing I'm uploading. Oh, it must be this one, yeah. It's the. It's like I titled it, but I'm so used to determining what video it is by looking at the link that when I looked at the link and it seemed too long for the video I was looking for, I was confused. And then I noted that it was actually titled Debate for Fun People. So this is just for fun people. Why can I not get Discord to come out of my headphones? Why does it come out of the... Why, oh why do you come from the TV, even though I've switched that over there? Voice and audio, voice and video. Wait, no. Yes. Okay, so output device. It is more determinate than the master thing down below. That's a lot of power. Don't let it go to your head, Discord. Don't let it go to your head. Howdy, human. Are you really howdy, human? What was it about to do? I'm uploading that thing, right. You heard California's locking down again. Alright, well, let me just sing you a quick lullaby, Karma's Pimp, okay? Good night, Karma's Pimp. Sleep well in your tent. Don't forget to watch out for Native Americans. If you see any bows and arrows, if you see any feather caps, if you see any ponies and some muskets on a strap, if you see any scalpages, if you see any scalpers, if you see any flatbread, well, sir, then you should worry about Indian invasion into your tent. Indian invasion into your tent. Don't become a papoose. That's what those Indians will do to you. They'll make you a papoose. That's what those Indians will do to you. You don't want to be a papoose, because that's what those Indians will do to you. Indians like to turn people into their pappies. Kind of makes you wonder, is the plural of papoose, papice? Perhaps instead it's papooses, or papoosh. I think papice sounds best, because goose like geese is rest, and that is how we pluralize oos words. How do you want to pluralize this oos word? How are you going to ever learn to pluralize oos words? And can't you think of no oos words like moose or goose or shoes? Like, you know, a million mooses, they're a million meese. And surely, you know, a million gooses is a million geese. Similarly, a million shoes is a million sheets. And equivalently, a million papooses must be a million puppies. Capiche? Capisci? Capiche? What's that Italian word? Capiche? Capiche. Alright, well, I guess Karma Pimp has gone to bed. Dave Sanderson's wrapping it up as well. He's got to go and lay his head down on the pillow. Good night, David. Sleep well. Don't forget to eat plenty of dream cheese while you're sleeping well. And your bean cheese. Then you won't have a mmm. Bye, Shad. See you later. Don't forget to go to bed right now. You can go into bed, and then you'll see that later you'll be fine. Ooh, Gavin Newsom was scolded for being caught at some dinner party unmasked. No doubt, I thought he would do something like that. He's a hypocrite, just like all those other fat cats up in Washington. You know, the politicians and whatnot. Yeah, well, the sheriff's departments, they said, like, we're not going to enforce this thing. We ain't enforcing your stay-at-home order, Governor Newsom. We the sheriffs, and we ain't enforcing your stay-at-home order. You don't have to stay at home if your staying at home was responsive to concern that we, the sheriff's department, might arrest you for being out. No, we ain't enforcing your order, Governor Newsom. You can take your order and shove it up your ass, Governor Newsom. We, the sheriff's department, we have very little respect for you and your orders. Order schmorder. The sheriff sent back a memo to the governor indicating both order and schmorder. There's always room for extra cheese. He was Freddie Forgiato, and he and some other Democrats were thoroughly scolded. Oh, good. You haven't seen it? No. If you go to the channel search on my page and put in number 17, it should pop up. If not, then 17 years old or YO or something pops up like that. But I think just the number 17 brings it up. But I will double check. Double check. Double check. I will double check, and I will double check. If you want me, double check. I mean, I didn't share it with you yet, did I? Oh. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, yeah, cool. I got confused because I was finding the debate thing at that moment. So, once again, I projected my experience onto you. Okay, what am I doing putting this here? Here you go. I think you're going to like the taste and flavor of that if you want to watch what it looks like. And you should be able to hear Jeffrey on it to coach a kid who's dealing with a problem in a tournament and calling you for solvency and saying, like, I didn't know what to do with this. And I think it also shows a lot about how, you know, you can isolate the different factors, whether you're arguing something because it's the best argument, whether you're arguing something because it's the most expedient argument, whether you're arguing something because it's the least subject to a specific kind of attack, and where it is and the sort of levels matters too. So my students started getting overly excited with this thing, and so I reminded them, remember that the thing we're explaining right now is your response to their response to your response to their claim about inflation. So it's like, you know, he said, I'm running my AF. They're going to say inflation. I'm saying, then run what you were saying I want to run as a plan. Run it instead as a response to inflation. Oh no, we're not going to have inflation because we're doing the labor standard, which is a way of meowing. But then, of course, you're subject to what? You have a plan? I don't know. So we don't want to say we're doing the labor standard. You just want to say that the labor standard successfully rebuts your claims about inflation because it's a way of doing federal jobs guarantee that expressly avoids all the inflationary harms that you've pointed out. I don't know if you were aware of this way or not, but it does exist. Well, you're running a plant. No. I'm disproving your claim that it necessarily links to inflation. I provided a counterexample. So it's like, it's a lot to be learned about how to frame things and what the argument is doing in certain contexts, and that little bit of coaching there, because I'm trying to both address a specific set of warrants he needs to understand better, but also get him to express them as I want him to, and focus on the elements that I want him to focus on most. Because what will happen is, I'll say, you say, meow, 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 and then he'll focus on the worst of those four things, which is probably the easiest to understand, and he'll hammer that to much of the detriment of the other three, and give him short shrift, because he doesn't really fully understand them all yet. So I got to get him to go through it again and again, just a few times, and then he usually gets down. He's a smart kid. I mean, you'll see that in no short order that he picks shit up quick. You know, he's an EHP who I am grateful to have in my life, because he reveals to me what NI ignoring, the real handicap of NI ignoring, and the real blessing I received in having the NI ignoring beat out of me by debate. It can take him quite some time to understand that he needs to say it concisely, and he needs to highlight specifically this and this, and when he adds that little spice of extroverted intuition into there, some extra shit I didn't say that he makes up on the spot, that, you know, he's messing it up. But I feel for him because he's an ENTP. But I'm glad for him too, because he could be doomed if he didn't have debate. I also feel glad for him because I'm maximally able to be a good coach for him, more than anybody else I've had, including previous ENTPs. Because my understanding of cognitive functions allows me to more effectively understand and articulate the shortcomings in his approach. So being ignoring myself, I might very well ignore that I understand clearly what he's doing wrong if I don't have the framework already in place to lead me obviously to it, you know? I'm also grateful to work with these people because I talk to the mom a lot. I talk to the dad a lot. Not so much the dad. The dad's an ISTP, so he's not the most talkative gentleman in the history of mankind. But I talk to the mom a lot, and the mom comes to me with a lot of like, you know, looking for advice or whatever, and she at least gets exposed to all this cognitive function stuff I keep throwing at her. I keep trying to tell her things like, it will do you not one bit of good to expect to remediate your child's polar, which is what she wants to do, right? In other words, listen, Eric, you're such a wonderful teacher. She'll try this flattery approach that's like not very well veiled. Oh, you're such a good teacher. I know that you can do it. I cannot do it. I cannot make Chloe into somebody who's competent in extroverted intuition. And if I could, it would be torture to force her to become competent at it. And you need to let your kids be who they are and stuff. But the thing, of course, is even though she does me the great honor, really, of letting me, wag my finger at her about her own kids, that it's not an honor it's easily be afforded. And I'm not particularly good at remaining respectful about that. Sometimes I'm like mad with their decision, and I'm like yelling at them like I do to everybody else. But anyway, nevertheless she's keeps calling herself. But I realized the other day that this has always made me happy. It was the sense that okay, she's learning about what it means to be ENTP and how that's a different kind of personality. And that's why he's like this. Blah, blah, blah. But it hits me. She's antipolar. So that's why she keeps calling me the same shit, and none of the truths ever resolve anything. Yeah, that's it, Freddie Forgiato. So I'm not really doing as much good work as I thought I was. It's not really landing on hearing ears. These hearing ears. Thanks. I appreciate your support. Antipolar people hurt your brain. TownieMan66. They can be a challenge. I think Rachel finds it more challenging than I do because I grew up with it and I'm an SI user and I'm NI ignoring. But even as a kid, I had thoughts that there was something wrong with my dad. But it was more about FE than NI. It was, I don't get it. What's wrong with Dad? Why isn't he able to chat like Mom and I are able to? Why can't he just, what's wrong with him? Well, what I was really saying is, he's not Alpha Quadrant, Mom. I didn't actually ask my mom what's wrong with my dad. I really seriously thought about it a lot. I was like, he seems like there's something wrong with him. He wasn't FE. He was TE-FI. And there are certain things that I always thought were awful. And I think this shows how 4th slot FI may be conscious, but it's still much more instrumental than 7th slot FI. This is a very FI thing that bothered me as a kid. So my dad they'd go to the movies. They want to go to the movies, right? My mom would want to see Mia. And my dad would want to see Mia. Well, last time they saw what my dad wanted to see. And this time, my mom says, last time, we saw Mia, can we see Mia this time? And he says, well, I don't want to see Mia. She says, but David, I want to see it. And he says, well, you're welcome to see it. Nothing's stopping us from seeing separate movies. And I always thought that was missing the point somehow. Like, that's so, I want to scream both these words at the same time. Fair and unfair. It's weird, and it's an FI thing for me. It's like, I didn't like how Dad was making Mom feel, and I didn't even understand that at all. I couldn't understand that. Those words never would have come out of my mouth, He's very no-nonsense man, Freddie Forgiato. Savage is not a bad adjective for him at all. But, for me, it was, he wasn't being a team player, and since I understood, I guess, genuine FI as including a requisite amount of FE accommodation, well, I guess my absolute value 7th slot FI said, hey, don't make FI instrumental. FI's where our tenderness is. Yeah. Yeah, a good old ESTJ dad. Yeah. What happens when you conflict with an ENTJ? Do they challenge you to a road race? So, huh. You should tell your stepfather that you can do it 4 times better than him. And then he says, well, prove it then. Say, I'm sorry, you're just doubling down here because I can prove it 4 times better than you too. I don't know how deep you want this hole to go. See if that confuses them. Winston's mom, I did not think my family was a democracy. I have not been under that illusion ever. My father said things to me very clearly. Things like, this family is not a democracy. Like, those were his words. So, it was made pretty clear to me. It's still made pretty clear to me. This family is not a democracy. You know, but it's also clear to me that I got 2 choices. I can battle or I can not battle. Battling between me and my dad doesn't go well when it happens. It doesn't really happen anymore much, but when it does happen, it's generally because my dad has I guess probably because my dad's hurt my feelings. And then the battle, like, the weird thing is, the kind of fights my dad and I get in, I'm very much more the FI one. So I get my feelings hurt, and then I sort of give him the silent treatment for a while. And then he comes out and is extra jovial to try to be like, hey, we're cool, right? And I usually give in fairly short order. And then he usually says some sort of non-apology that's intended to convey an apology anyway, you know. Look again at your sentence. You wrote your sentence wrong. So, yeah, we all knew that David was king of the castle. What is the fall? Like, when we were on a trip, we often go to Mammoth, and my dad, I remember there were certain years there where my dad was stubborn and he didn't want to waste the money on the chains guys. There's no reason for us to be paying them to put on chains when we can perfectly easily put the chains on ourselves. And sometimes I would be required to get out and help with this process. I did not like to. Sometimes he did it by himself. It never was easy. It was always a pain in the ass. By the time he got back in the car, my dad's hands were cold and usually bleeding, and my mom would say, Eric, shh, not right now. Father's very busy. Something like that, you know. Basically, like, you know, this is one of those times where you need to be effing aware, Eric, and be like, don't push Dad because he's pissy right now. she's like, if I did something, it's like if I started to say, and of course, Dad was scary, but, I mean, I don't know. I'm FI polar, right? The thing is, what's much more important to me is that change on the tires. He'd get mad, but being FI polar, by the time he got around to apologizing for it, because he was processing things with FI, I guess, I usually had forgotten all about it. He yelled at me. I just was like, oh, well, he got yelled at. Maybe I'd cry, but as soon as he walked away, my tears would dry up, and wouldn't be thinking about it anymore. And he'd come back later and say, hey, I shouldn't have yelled at you earlier. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, what? Oh, right, yeah. Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You're cool. Thank you. Because I'm FE, so I'm trying to convey to him, I'm reading like, okay, he's trying to be a team player now. So I'm going to definitely double down on the team player thing. Yeah, we're team players. Not really getting that he felt bad. That he wasn't just that he wasn't finally coming around and being FE, that was actual FI. Anyway, I didn't really have any problems with my family or anything like that. My dad was kind of scary and strict in some ways, but very, very open-minded, very intellectually stimulating environment to grow up in. Being around my dad means, when you're a kid, means you listen to a lot of stories that have transitions that sound like, now, just 3 years prior, we had been in Mia. And it's going to be a segue to lead into a story about Mia. So, the reason I mentioned that, back to Mia, we're over here where we're in Mia. You remember that hotel, Eric, don't you? Yeah, you remember it. That's right, it was the hotel right there on the river. And we came down from there, and that's where we saw Judy. That's right, the lady from before, right? Yeah, that's why I mentioned that part. That's where she was. Okay, that's a lot of detail. Or sometimes we get, it's interesting. I was watching on Fox News and they were referencing the Iranian situation and mentioned that there's appeals going on to a Turk currently, which is of course odd because the Turk was replaced by the Biyama. Now, if you're aware of Iranian and the Middle Eastern Peninsula and history, you'll of course know that long-term conflict between Iraq and Iran persisted long before they were named such. Persia before that, of course, and then, you'll get that sometimes too. And the thing is, I'm doing a poor job of imitating him because he has way more facts. And, he does a good job of telling history stuff. I love listening to his history stories because they're comprised of a bunch of facts and proper sequencing. It can be a little dry. You have to like to hear stories about wars in particular and sort of past international relations and politics stuff. He'll also talk about contemporary politics though, and the thing that's I think is so anti-polar about his approach to politics is he still tries to it's like he still gets surprised by the low level of discourse on the TV. And he switches back and forth between Fox and CSNBC or whatever it's called, whatever it is, and maybe CNN. He likes to watch the news, but he's not happy with any of them. And many of the times I'll go in there, that's okay. Now this one guy, Brett Juderson, he's not a bad. He does a good job, okay. But this blah 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 blah, and he said blah blah blah, and they're rather TI-ish in his objections often, because he is, of course, a PhD in philosophy. So, but yeah, he's fun and a joy that I regret not. I continually regret not taking better advantage of, not finding a way to take better advantage of him one way or the other, not choosing to prioritize not really prioritize. Okay, well, I don't know about MSNBC and CNN maybe in agreement with each other. Fox is definitely not in agreement with MSNBC. And here's another thing to remember. If you think about the possibility that there are infinite possible political positions on different things in the world, remember, we all agree on 99% of them. So when we remember that most of the things that could possibly be points of contention aren't even points of contention at all because we agree on them, and we include those in our calculation, we see that we're a lot more alike than we think, even when the differences are expressed very starkly. What they represent, instead of actual differences between the people, is a value conflict between people whose frames of reference have no metaframe through which to properly place and utilize them. Everybody climb aboard the metaframe. It's gonna choo down that meta lane. Sorry, I had to get the second verse and go ahead, Dave Simpson. You mean the one where I'm 17? Yeah, cool. Well, you can. What do you mean? All right, please talk to me about TE shit. Jet, listen. Remember, I'm much more accurately predicted as somebody who's going to behave to a similar prompt differently this time than somebody who's going to respond to a similar prompt in the same way. Don't place too much faith in my moods to be indicative of anything. Well, I've been thrilled with the people you brought in to talk to me. And I think that the girls the other day and the dude today, those are great. Robots from my community. You invited the robots? Well, are robots? I mean, do they like going to there? Well, how do I understand? Why do you invite the robots? What are they supposed to do for you? Rachel mentioned she got a announcement on Discord before she got it on YouTube. Thanks. That's great. So a robot's like a macro? Or is a macro specifically copying your things that you do and then repeating it? Have you ever tried to use that kind of thing in an app before? Like, it'll say, okay, I want you to do the following 6 steps of effects thing, but then I want you to do it again. The same 6th one. You can have it record the first time you do it and then play it back and it'll do it again. Isn't that neat? That's like macro, what they call it in that app anyway. So it's like, does the robot something that comes with Discord? That comes with Discord? Okay, and then and they're customizable so you can have them do different tasks? Rhythm bot, huh? I see. Do they have a robot that attains sentience independent of its programming? I guess that wouldn't be a very specific use. Yeah. You figure out a robot an internet robot that does possibly pretend to be a person, but regardless, that is programmed to specifically affect a behavioral change in a given individual over the course of a few months. And that is, self-learning in some way about this, so that it gets better at it over time. And so it was learned basically how much and what kind of prompt certain people are actually motivated by, given the fact that it can only communicate with them via words and doesn't have any power to, like, I will use this cattle prod on you, Do you want to cattle prod me? Do you want to make me be so proud? If you want to cattle prod me, you're gonna have to then fly to Prague. Okay, I'm tired. I'm going to bed now. That's the place where I sleep. Good night, everybody. When you sleep tonight, remember, as you're lying down and you're feeling worried, oh, I don't need to worry. Host Eric loves me. The bedtime reassurance.